you do not know your multiplication tables, you are going to stink at factoring. You will be terrible at it. Coach Wood and I, for the last several years, have tried every method we can think of to teach kids to factor, because some kids struggle with this. Some kids do fine with it, but some kids struggle with it, and I have figured out the problem. We've used boxes, we've used grouping, we've used X's, we've used whatever, trying to make a way for factoring to be easier. Last year, I just declared to Coach Wood, there is no way to teach factoring to a kid who does not know their multiplication tables. Because even if I give you a calculator, you're still not going to be able to do it because you can't pull them up in your mind to think of them quickly. And you really need to be able to do that to do these. So, if you're a little weak on your multiplication tables, now is the time to pull out the flashcards, download an app, do something to review those multiplication tables. Because if you are struggling with multiplication tables, you're going to struggle on this. Because it's something that needs to be, even if I give you a calculator, you're still going to struggle on it because your mind can't think of the options, even if you have a calculator. A calculator might help you some, but it's still not going to make you very good, much better. So, if you know this is you, if I'm talking to you and you do not know your multiplication tables, now is a time to work on that, because you need to know them. It just makes anything you do with numbers so much easier if you know them. The very first thing we're always going to do on these problems is what you guys were doing last night, and we're going to factor out a greatest common factor. Sometimes there's not a greatest common factor, in which case we just skip this step. But for this problem, I see that each term has an x, and all those look like they're probably divisible by something. So what do you think, Passion? What's our greatest common factor here? Okay, good. So 2 is our biggest number that can go in. What about x's, Passion? Just 1. So we've got that 2x. We're going to write it out front. And then, Passion, what will we get on the inside of the parentheses?
6x to the second power.
Good.
Negative 7x, just that. And then negative 3.
Perfect. No x's right there. Because you had 1, you took it away. They cancel right there. So just the 20. We okay here? That was don't if you have the exact same on top and bottom, they just cancel out and you don't put the x's. All right, so we have factored out a greatest common factor. That's what we were doing yesterday. Okay. Now there are some instances where you might have just 2 terms, where we'll see some special cases for that. But in most cases, you're now going to have 3 terms in the parentheses. So the 2x we're kind of done with. We need to keep it out there, but we don't do anything with it, okay? What we're now concerned with is factoring this inside part, okay? And we're going to break it back apart into 2 binomials. That's something like x minus 4 times x plus 2. So whenever you guys were just doing that worksheet, whenever we split this into 2 binomials, when I multiply this first number by this first number here, it's going to give me this. So when I multiply this number by this number, it's going to give me that 6x squared. So I am going to list all of the factors of 6x squared. So the stuff I can multiply together to get 6x squared. So we're thinking about what we can multiply to get 6. What can we multiply to get 6? 2 and 3. And I'm going to do a 2x and a 3x because you got to get that x squared, right? And then what other numbers could I use? 1x times 6x. So these are my possibilities for, I'm going to highlight that in yellow. These are my possibilities for those yellow spaces. Okay? Then I also found out whenever I was working on that worksheet earlier that highlighter. This number right here times this number right here, the 2 last terms multiplied together, gave me this last number here. So I need those numbers to multiply to give me negative 20. So I'm going to list all of my factors of negative 20. So what can I multiply to get negative 20? Negative 5 and a positive 4. I could do, well, I guess I'll list it this time. I could do a positive 5 and a negative 4, right? It doesn't matter which one is negative. Could they both be negative? No, they give me a positive.
Negative 1 and 10.
So, what?
Negative 1.
Uh-huh.
Negative 2 and 10.
Negative 2 and 10. Or 2 and negative 10. What else? Negative 20 and 1. You can always use the number and 1. And I think that's everything that we could use, right?
Yeah.
So all of these right here are options for the second spots. So this is a little frustrating, but this is what you've got to do. We are going to break the trinomial into two binomials, and I know this is about the only time a teacher's going to tell you to do this. Guess and check. You get to guess and check. It is painful sometimes, especially on one like this. It's a little bit harder because we've got a lot of options. But we have to guess and check on this. There's really no way around it. I mean, you can do Miss Martin teaches a X method. There's still some guess and check involved there that way also, though. So I just stick with this because I like it better. If you're really struggling, we can try the X maybe later if it may help. But because it's a good, lots of teachers use that. It's valid too. But I just prefer to break it back apart. So what we're going to do is we're going to guess and see if it's right. So I could either use, for the yellow ones, I can either use 2x and 3x, or I could use 1x and 6x. I cannot use 2x and 6x. Right? They have to be pairs there. Because 2x times 6x gives me 12x squared. That doesn't work. So 2 and 3, or I could use 1 and 6. All right. Passion wants to do 2 and 3. I usually use the two that are closest together first. Sometimes it doesn't work, but I usually use the two that are closest together first. It seems like worksheets tend to put those on there more often than the others. So, we're going to try this. Then, we are going to try something from the other list. So, Passion, what do you want to use there?
Let's do -2 times 10.
Negative 2 and 10. So, I'm going to put a -2 right here and a positive 10 right here. So, I've got my guess. This is just a guess. It may or may not be the answer. I've got to check to see if it's right. Okay? So, to check it, you have to multiply this back to see if it works. You can use that. You can do that using the box, or I'm just going to distribute here, but the box does that same thing, right? So if you prefer the box, you would do 2x minus 2, 3x plus 10, and check it that way if you prefer doing the box. So I'm going to do the 2x times the 3x, which gives me 6x squared. I knew that was what I was going to get because that was my first term, right? And I picked numbers that would give me 6x squared. Then I've got to, so that's that. I've then got to multiply 2x times 10. So that's going to give me positive 20x. Then I got to do negative 2 times 3x, which will give me negative 6x. And then I've got to do negative 2 times 10, which will give me negative 20. I don't think so either, because when we put those middle terms together, what are we going to get? 14x. And 14x is not what we're supposed to get. That 14x is supposed to be, we're checking to see if we're getting the right middle number right there, which is that negative 7x. So, it didn't work.
I feel like
So,
the 2x and the 10, I feel like that, like the negative 2x and 10, I feel like that one's right, but I don't know about the 6x.
it really is just a game of guess and check. So, if you are fast at doing this in your head, you may be able to guess and check in your head, but unless you're fast, there's really even if you're doing it in your head, you're still guessing and checking for this. So 2 and 10 did not work there. I will tell you, try switching 2 and 10 before you give up on 2 and 10. So I'm going to switch where they're at. So I'm going to put the 10 here and the 2 here. Because sometimes where they're at matters, especially when you have numbers in front of your x here. So let's check this one. 2x times 3x gives us 6x squared. We knew that was going to happen. We've got positive 4x when we do it 2x times 2. We get a negative 30x right here in the middle, and then that minus 20. Does that give me negative 7? No. So that didn't work either. So we're giving up on 2 and 10. Well, actually, I'm not going to mark them out because it might work if we used 1 and 6 possibly. So, but usually, I'm going to try this over here. Anybody found the one that works yet? Because we're running out of time. What works, Owen?
2x plus 2 and 3x minus
2x. Are you sure it's going to work?
Yeah.
No, we just tried that one.
10. -5.
Negative 5 here and 4 here. I think you must have multiplied something wrong. I don't think that one will work. So I'm going to try negative 5 and 4. So I've got 6x squared. You'll notice that ends up being the same every time. You don't really have to check that every time. 2x plus times 4 is going to give me positive 8x. Oh, this is looking promising here. Vince is a genius. Negative 5 times 3. Negative 15x. And then negative 5 times 4 gives us a negative 20. Positive 8 and negative 15 is negative 7x. So that tells us what that tells us is that this is our answer. So I'm going to rewrite it down here because all my guessing and checking's made a mess. It's going to be 2x times 2x minus 5 times 3x plus 4. So that is kind of a long process. I told you this is one of the harder ones that you will do. You will not really see anything more difficult than this. This one had a GCF, and it had fairly large numbers here that we had to multiply that had several different options. We will see some that are easier, that you'll have fewer options that you can do this. But this is the idea. Now, obviously, we've only done one problem. We're going to do a lot more on Monday so that you guys will see what we're doing. Mm-hmm.
So what? So for example, I was just looking at nothing that you could multiply that. So what would that mean?
So this one would not have a greatest common factor. So you would start with like 5x squared, which would be 5x times 1x, and then negative 14. So 2 times 7 and negative 1 and 14. And then you would go straight to doing that stuff I was doing at the end for those.
Can I take my bag real quick before we leave the fourth period? Sorry. Because I gotta go all the way down to the gym.
I'll give you
I'll be right
2 minutes. Okay, come back.
Yeah.